going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. You know who it is by now,
Jimothy.
So ladies and gents, I have got a bit of a conundrum. I've got a regional coming up this weekend, and I'm still undecided as to what deck I want to play, mainly because I'm very aware of the format with Brave stuff and the Scythe lock just being rife everywhere. I'm just not too sure what deck I want to play, whether I want to go with a deck that just doesn't care about being locked out of its extra deck, or just go with something that I'm little bit more familiar with, that I kind of like enjoy playing. So I kind of stumbled across this deck just because when I'm a bit lost, ladies and gents, I just find myself tinkering with just random other decks, and this is the deck that I've just kind of stumbled across, and I was like, do you know what, I haven't even actually really tested this deck, and it's been a very popular deck in the past. So without wasting any more time, ladies and gents, let's get straight into the profile. So Sky Strikers is the deck that I've been tinkering with, ladies and gentlemen, and for the most part, Sky Strikers, can't get my words out, seem to be solved in terms of the deck, but nevertheless, it's still a deck that's really interested me, mainly because it requires a little bit of technicality to play. Now, typically, I like to play combo decks. I like to have a little bit of interaction with my opponent and end on somewhat of a competent board with the ability to follow up. Sky Strikers doesn't give you that luxury. If you make a single misplay, you literally can get OTK'd. Your monsters are super small, and you don't put up the most threatening of boards going first. So let's get straight into the profile, and I'll give my thoughts afterwards. So starting us off, rerun triple Sky Striker Ace Ray. From what the little playtests that I've done, you need 3 Ray. It's probably the best card in the deck. It helps you win games, it floats, it tributes to cost, it does everything that Sky Striker needs it to do. Helps to get you into your extra deck as well, so you would definitely want to see. I'm also running 1 Sky Striker Ace Rose. I could potentially bump this up to 2, but just for the little time that I have been testing it, 1 seems to be doing fine, to be honest. So 1 Sky Striker Ace Rose. Show this there. And the next 2 best Sky Striker cards is Destiny Hero Dasher and Destiny Hero Celestial. I am sure you know what this little package entails. Next, that is it for our main monsters that actually do stuff. We're just running a bunch of hand traps. Now, I think from what I've been doing, this is more or less a going second deck. And what I will say on the hand traps, ladies and gents, this isn't the original hand trap list that I had with this deck. I am actually running Nibiru and Ash Blossoms, but they are somewhere in my other decks and I just can't find them, to be honest. So I'm just putting some placeholders in the form of Ghost Bal and Ghost Ogre. Now, these typically would just be in the side anyway, but Effect Veiler is definitely mandatory, mainly because of your Selene Halki Fibrax combo into Access Code Talker. Artifact Lancia, I like floodgates that kind of like I like hand traps that kind of like floodgate your opponent and just prevent them from doing something or a certain action for the whole turn. So your Lancias, your Drows, those are kind of the hand traps I kind of like favor because they're a little bit more high impact and impact the game in a better way. Ghost Ogre, Ghost Bal, Ash Blossom, they don't necessarily impact the board as much as some of the other hand traps. Obviously, Nibiru should be in here as well. So again, these two slots in the form of Ghost Bal and Ghost Ogre should be triple Ash Blossom and triple Nibiru. And I believe that 12 hand traps is enough. You could push it to 15, maybe even 14, but again, I think 12 is fine. It's kind of necessary at the moment, especially with all the Brave stuff running around. You kind of need to see some hand traps to stop your opponent just building a crazy board. Right, next onto the spells, and obviously Sky Striker, so we play a bunch of spells, playing triple Sky Striker Mecha Widow Anchor. Again, nothing needs to be said. 3 cards in grave, you can actually take your opponent's monster, which is useful. Take it and link off. I'm running the double shark cannon. Did you know that this revives your opponent's DPE? I bet you didn't know that. Yes, it does. So hence why I'm running 2. You can also get rid of problem cards like Golden Lord, for example. So definitely a 2 of it, in my opinion. Probably why you don't necessarily need the Ghost Bal. We play 1 Sky Striker Afterburners. Again, you could potentially put another 1 in, but 1 seems to be serving me fine, to be honest. 1 multi-roll, 1 Hornet Drones, 1 Engage. Obviously, these are just your power cards. You want to see these as much as possible, as well as the 1 Area 0. Now, from what I did, I've actually got another Field Spanner in here, which you'll see in a moment, which you probably can guess what it is. But I think just the 1 Sky Striker Area 0 is fine, because once you've got 1 access to Ray, you don't necessarily need to see any more Rays. Yes, they do help, but this in itself is just fine at 1, I think, anyway, in my opinion. I could be wrong. I'm not a Sky Striker main, so I'm still experimenting with the deck. So yeah. Next, I run 2 Foolish Burial Goods as well as the 1 Metal Falls Fusion. Again, this could potentially be taken out and put in, probably, this could be a hand trap slot, for example, or just something a little bit more impactful. But I think this is fine, mainly because you do want to draw into your hand traps as well as get spells in the graveyard, and obviously Foolish Burial Goods is one way of doing that, along with your Metal Falls Fusion. Having 3 spells in your graveyard turn 1 is super useful, to be honest, especially in Sky Strikers, because it turns on a lot of their spells. So yeah. Next, Double Fusion Destiny. Nothing really needs to be said about this. You know what it's there for. Also, we are running the 1 Mystic Mine. This is not the game plan for Sky Strikers. This is just an option to make sure you see some of your cards. Most importantly, a way to go into your extra deck. So 1 Mystic Mine, if your opponent is not savvy and doesn't play any back row removal, you can actually steal games with this, especially if you see late game and you've done a little bit of that damage through Hayate as it is. So definitely a power card, just a one-off. I do run the 1 Terraforming to be able to search into it, as well as search my area 0. So Mystic Mine, definitely a power card. Also running 1 Upstart Goblin, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, as well as the 1 Call by the Grave. Again, you don't really want to get caught with any kind of caught up against any kind of hand trap. So Call by the Grave does help mitigate that, as well as getting a Spanning Grave, to be honest. And the others speak for themselves. We are actually playing traps in the main, 3 traps to be specific. There can only be 1. Yes, ladies and gents. This card works very, very well in this deck, especially with the way that DPE works and the way that Sky Striker Ace Ray works. You can actually just mess about with interchanging your monsters through the main monster zone as well as the extra monster zone, with a lot of your Sky Striker monsters from your extra deck being machines, Ray being a warrior obviously, and then DPE can obviously clear himself off the field and then come back. So there can be only 1, not really much of an issue in this deck, and it does hinder a lot of decks. Next, onto the extra deck, and for the Sky Striker stuff, we're playing triple Sky Striker Ace Kagari. Say no more. Glad that it's at 3, not like in Master Duel. Play triple Sky Striker Ace Shizuku. You know what it is, ladies and gents. This is probably your Shizuku end phase search. Is just something that you can't scoff at. As well as the double Hayate, because we needed some space, and the 1 Sky Striker Ace Kaina. Now I don't run Prosperity, so the Foolish Burial Goods along with the Metal Falls Fusion could potentially be a Prosperity slot, mainly because I don't own Prosperity. They're a lot of money at the moment, so I can't get my hands on any as yet. But nevertheless, you do tend to banish a few of these for Prosperity. Your Kaina, for example, could potentially be banished, as well as 1 Hayate. So yeah. And then for the last Sky Striker monster, we play 1 Zeke. Next, I am running Predaplant Verte Anaconda, as well as the Crystron Hauki Fibrax into the Celine, which then goes into your access code talker. So that is it for the non-Sky Striker Link monsters. Again, this little package is nice. It can end games, which is what you really want to do, especially after you've dwindled your opponent out of a lot of resources, which is something that Sky Striker is infamous for. And just being able to end games with access code talk is always a nice feeling. So yeah. And then finally, we are running the 1 Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, aka DPE, best Sky Striker card printed. Yeah, it does a lot. It's in every deck at the moment. Sky Striker is no exception. Sky Striker actually needs it to function in today's modern age of Yu-Gi-Oh! So what more needs to be said about it? It's DPE. And that is it, ladies and gents. So let me know what you think of the profile. Do you think there's anything that I needed to be included? Again, I'm not too sure what I'm going to be playing for the regional. It's just something that I decided to just tinker with. I threw a few cards in, and I have a lot of fun playing it, mainly because of the way that it plays. And like I mentioned previously, it does take a lot of thought to play Sky Striker, despite what a lot of people say about the deck. If you make a wrong decision, you can actually just lose a game there on the spot. So for that reason, I like playing it. It's very technical, but I'm not too sure whether it's something that I could potentially take to the regional. Yes, I know it's a strong deck, has very, very strong, powerful cards. You can put a ton of text in there, but I'm just not sure it's me. So we'll see, ladies and gents, we'll see. Testing should help me make a definitive decision. But anyway, we find ourselves at the end of another video. As always, if you did enjoy this content, you know what to do by now. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, all of that beautiful good stuff, and I will definitely see you guys on the next video. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.